Good morning. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we lift up this beautiful land of Anguilla to you today, its people, its communities, its future. In times where fear and crime seems to divide, we ask for your peace to rise stronger than darkness. Unite our hearts across this land. Strengthen families, leaders, neighbors to stand together with courage and compassion. Let justice be guided with wisdom, and let mercy walk hand in hand with truth. Protect the innocent, we pray. Comfort those who have been hurt and bring transformation to those who have lost their way. May your presence bring stability to every home, every street, every heart. Let Anguilla shine as a place of safety, unity, and renewed purpose. We pray, we stand together in faith, believing that peace is possible, healing is near, and brighter days are ahead. Bless this honorable house. Give our premier wisdom to lead through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Honorable Chaplain. You may be seated.
Confirmation of minutes. Minutes of proceedings of the second meeting of the second session of the 13th Anguilla House of Assembly.
Honorable members, you have before you the minutes of the second meeting dated 14th April 2026. Are there any amendments or corrections? Members, I do think there might have been an omission inadvertently. You will recall on the last occasion, I did announce a statement to be attached and appended to the minutes with the transcript, and I had sent it to the clerk. Through inadvertence, it hadn't been attached, but I do ask that following today's sit-in, that a new link be circulated with the members. And if you're minded to approve the minutes, save and accept for the amendment that I wish for, which is that the reference that I've made on page 2 of your minutes, section 2, where it says, section 2D, announcements by direction of the speaker. You will recall that I did read a statement that I wish for to form part of the record with respect to a ruling that I had done on a previous sitting. So if there are any other amendments, I will take them now. If not, can I have a mover to approve the minutes as circulated with that one amendment?
Madam Speaker, I move that the minutes be accepted with the proposed amendment.
And do I have a seconder? Thank you, member.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the minutes circulated dated 14th April 2026 with the one amendment highlighted be approved. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Oath of allegiance to new members, none. Announcements by the direction of the speaker.
Honorable members, I do take this time in terms of announcements, and I know orders of the day may cover it, but I did want to highlight the prayer of our chaplain as it relates to peace and the loss of our young men again this week. I do expect that we will speak to that at any other orders of the day, but I did want to highlight that the Assembly, the management, the members, the staff, we do send our deepest condolences to those that hurt, those that are in pain, those that are suffering in respect of the recent tragedies. And this Assembly made a commitment last year, and I do remind the Assembly on both sides of the aisle the unfinished work as it relates to the Task Force on Gun Crime and Violence. And I think the Honorable Member for Road North, you would have been part of that panel. It is incumbent on both sides to really, really drill down and dig deep and figure out as a nation where we are going, because we're here every couple months. We repeat the same condolences, we give the same orders of the day, but we haven't really been able to make much progress with resolving and reconciling. And when it hits a community within the community, I think we've reached to another level. So we really have to dig deep. We put all the politics and fights and arguments aside. At the end of the day, we all live here and we're Anguillian and we all want the same thing. So at this point, I wish to call upon the honorable member for Road North. I've delegated a task to him and he'll make the announcement. I won't take the wind out of his sail. He does have a committee that was formed this year. It is an event that the public might not be aware of, so I'm going to turn it over to the Honorable Merrick Richardson to make the announcement in respect of something very special for this assembly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning to you. Good morning to all the members of this House on both sides of the aisle, and good morning to everyone who's joining us here in person this morning. Today, we highlight a significant achievement. On April 30th, the House of Assembly will officially reach the historic milestone of its 50th anniversary. To honor this half-century of governance, a dedicated anniversary committee consisting of Honorable Single Island-wide member Mr. Jason Bryan, Ms. Yusvan Brooks, a youth arm representative, Ms. Cordelia Senhouse, clerk, Ms. Vanisha Proctor, and myself as chair, were established to create a significant week of activities, ensuring the Golden Jubilee is celebrated with the dignity and reflection such an occasion deserves. The formal commemorative activities will take place from June 28 to July 3, 2026. This week-long observance will serve as a tribute to our legislative history, the progress of our nation, and the people we serve. The anniversary program is designed to bridge the gap between governance and the grassroots, featuring in-house ceremonies, special parliamentary sessions, and historical exhibitions within the House, and community engagements, interactive outreach programs, and public forums. We invite all citizens to join us in reflecting on 5 decades of representation. Further details regarding the full schedule of events, locations, and participation opportunities will be shared via our official channels in the coming weeks. So save the dates and please do join us. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I thank you, Honorable Member Richardson, and those that are serving on the committee, we thank you in advance. Member Richardson, the pressure is on. To be able to plan the 50th of parliamentary democracy in Anguilla is a very big deal. If you are not on the committee, still reach out to Member Richardson, and I think you indicated Member Bryan. Right, those are our members of social enjoyment. So we reach out to them and offer your help. It's going to be a big celebration. Are there any other announcements, Mr. Proctor? I believe those are my announcements.
Questions? None. Government statements on recent developments? None. Papers? The Anguilla National Trust Financial Statements 2021 and the Anguilla National Trust Financial Statements 2022.
I call upon the member that is responsible for laying the papers, Anguilla National Trust Financial Statements 2021 and 2022.
Madam Speaker, I rise just in support of these papers being laid, and at this point I have nothing else to add.
It is so ordered that the papers do lie on the table in respect of the financial statements of the National Trust for 2022 and 2021. And I will ask the Deputy Clerk to ensure that they are uploaded to our website under the document library if the public wants to have sight of them.
The Anguilla Festivals Commission Business Plan.
I call upon the member that is responsible for laying the Anguilla Festivals Development Commission Plan.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, those listening via Facebook Live and radio, those in the gallery, I rise today in my capacity as Minister of Culture to lay before this honorable House the first business plan of the Anguilla Festival Development Commission, in full compliance with Section 21 and 26(4) of the Festivals Development Commission Act 2025. This is not a routine procedural exercise, Madam Speaker. This document represents a fundamental shift in how we view manage, and monetize culture in Anguilla. Section 21 of the Act requires that the Commission submits a structured, accountable, and forward-looking plan outlining the strategic priorities aligned with government's policy, services and outputs for the coming financial years, measurable performance indicators, financial projections and assumptions, risk mitigation and strategies. This business plan satisfies all of those requirements, but more importantly, it translates legislation into action. It moves the Commission from a concept to execution. Honorable members, this 5-year strategic roadmap, 2026 to 2030, designed to transform festivals into a pillar of national development. It establishes that the Commission is 3 things simultaneously. 1, a regulator, setting standards and licensing festivals. 2, a commercial enterprise, generating revenue and managing assets. And 3, a cultural authority, preserving and promoting Anguillian identity. Madam Speaker, our strategic priorities. The plan identifies clear national priorities. Economic growth, targeting over 15 million in visitor spend over the 5-year period. Positioning festivals as a driver of tourism and job creation. The regulatory framework. Introducing a national festivals licensing system, ensuring quality, coordination, and accountability. Cultural preservation, embedding heritage into all festivals, institutionalizing cultural and educational identity. And of course, revenue diversification. Expanding income streams beyond government funding, leveraging tickets, sponsorship, licensing, and intellectual property. Madam Speaker, we also have a number of key operational areas. The Commission is focused on festivals development and execution, including the largest festival of all, the Anguilla Summer Festival. Licensing and regulation of all festivals, management of the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center as a revenue-generating national venue. Commercial activities, including sponsorship, merchandising, and broadcast rights. This is a modern, structured, and accountable system, not an ad hoc approach. Financial strength and sustainability. The plan outlines a clear financial trajectory. Revenue growing from 2.5 million a year to 4.3 million by year 5. Transitioning towards reduced dependence on government funding, achieving consistent operating surpluses. This is critical. It demonstrates that culture is not just an expense, it's an investment with measurable returns. Accountability and performance. In keeping with Section 21, the plan includes measurable key performance indicators, festival attendance, revenue growth, sponsorship value, number of licensed events, audited financial statements, annual reporting to Parliament. This ensures transparency, discipline, and results. Why does this plan matter, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, for far too long, festivals have been treated primarily as public service activities. Important for culture, yes, but not structured for sustainability. This model is no longer sufficient. The case for a business model over a public service model. Let me be clear, Madam Speaker. A public service model relies heavily on government subventions, lacks incentives for efficiency and growth, and treats festivals as seasonal obligations. A business model, on the other hand, as outlined in this plan, generates its own revenue, attracts investment and sponsorship, creates jobs and economic activity, ensures year-round planning and execution, holds management accountable for performance. This shift is not optional, Madam Speaker. It is absolutely necessary if we are to compete globally. What this means for Anguilla, by adopting this model, festivals become economic engines, not just celebrations. The Lansing Cultural Center becomes a productive national asset, not an underutilized facility. Creatives and vendors can gain real economic opportunity. Government moves from a sole funder to a strategic partner and regulator. Most importantly, we position Anguilla as a premier cultural tourism destination in the Caribbean. But Madam Speaker, of course, there are risks and responsibilities associated with this model. This plan recognizes weather disruptions, financial dependency, market competition, and it provides mitigation strategies, diversified revenue, strong governance, licensing enforcement, insurance and planning frameworks. This is a responsible and realistic plan, not an aspirational document. Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, this plan is more than a statutory requirement. It is a national strategy. It positions the Anguilla Festivals Development Commission to become financially stable, globally competitive, culturally grounded, and economically impactful. I therefore lay this business plan before this honorable House and urge the members to recognize. The future of festivals in Anguilla must be built on a business model, structured, accountable, growth-oriented with the support of government, while preserving the cultural soul that defines us. Madam Speaker, at this time, I wish to put on record my sincerest gratitude to the PS in the ministry responsible for culture, Dr. Bonnie Richardson Lake, for all her support in helping us to get to this stage. I also want to put on record my sincerest gratitude to the members of the Festivals Commission, the chairman, Mr. Romeo Kelsick, and the deputy chairman, Ms. Destiny Ritchie, who is in the gallery here with us today. Also, Mrs. Kendisha Hall, who is the Anguilla Tourist Board's representative, Ms. Dorette Gums, the Ministry of Finance representative, Ms. Tiffany Carty, the Department of Youth and Culture's representative, who's also in the gallery with us here today. And I also want to acknowledge Mr. Alwyn Richardson and Mr. Fitzroy Tomlinson, who are also members of the commission, Madam Speaker. The commission has been up and running for the last 4 months, Madam Speaker, and they've done a mammoth task of recruiting the CEO, helping to develop the business plan, and ensuring that the festival's groundwork for the commission is off to a great start. I also wish to publicly congratulate and acknowledge the newly appointed CEO, who's also in the gallery with us, Madam Speaker, Ms. Amber Woodley, and wish her every success as she takes on this dynamic role, Madam Speaker, the first of its kind. And I am sure that she will do an outstanding job. Many of you will recognize how she's done an amazing job with the Miss Anguilla Committee and transforming that pageant. The girls are out of the gate. This is 2 years back to back that we've had persons banging on the door to get in to Miss Anguilla, and I'm very proud of the work that she's done there, and I wish her every success moving forward as the CEO of the Festivals Development Commission, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, at this time, I wish to lay the business plan officially before the House of Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. The order is that the business plan be laid on the table and uploaded to the site. I'm pretty sure that the public will have keen interest in following this, because this is the assembly that gave life to the new commission. I'd like to take this opportunity as well to welcome those in the gallery, particularly the members of the commission. We get a little lonely in here sometimes. I think some people don't realize they can actually sit in the gallery. So you're welcome here today. Good luck in your new appointments. And you have the support of the full assembly. It was legislation that was passed with the full support of this assembly. Order that the paper to lie on the table.
Reports from committees, none. Petitions, none. Government notices, none. Private members' notices, none. Motions, motion 4 of 2026, 2/13 HOA, for the consideration of government's legislative program for the second session of the 13th Anguilla House of Assembly.
At this time, the public will recall that on the last occasion was the opening address of the Honorable Premier, and in accordance with Standing Orders 13.3, the Leader of Opposition replies on this day. However, I do know that we have an inconsequential motion that follows and subject to the Honorable Member for Island Harbor's preference. Honorable Dr. Webster, would you prefer to just dispense of the very provisional motion number 5 so that you can have the full thrust of your time uninterrupted and not be focused on moving on to that? Would you wish for me to adjust the agenda to do that? All in favor? I'm suggesting to Honorable Dr. Webster that we consider motion number 5 instead, which is just inconsequential, a customs duty tax exemption, so that when the Honorable Member makes his reply, we would have already dealt with that as a matter of housekeeping. All in favor of taking that approach? Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. May I invite the mover to present motion 5 of 2025, please?
Thank you. Good morning to you, Madam Speaker. Good morning to the members of this honorable House and the listening and viewing media. Madam Speaker, before I begin, there are actually 2 motions. One is not listed, and I crave leave of this honorable House for motion number 6 of 2026 to also be presented at this time. It is a standard motion, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Has the membership received copies and noticed that there is one motion as well that isn't substantive but relates to customs duties that hadn't been listed? Has the members received copies of it? Honorable Opposition, have you received copies of it? Are you amenable to proceeding as well with hearing motion 6? I had no difficulty with it because it is a motion in relation to relief for I think it's a local business, and if the Assembly is minded, I will allow the mover as well to proceed with that. Those in favor of allowing motion 6 as well? Aye. Those opposed? Member, leave is granted for you to present both motions in sequence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the resolution for both are identical, and I request as well that the reading of the resolution apply to both.
Leave is granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion: Customs Duty and Tax Exemption Motion number 5 of 2026-2/13 HOA Regulations 2026. Resolution made by the House.
Is there a seconder? And then I'll allow to explain the motion. Seconder? It's been moved and seconded. You may proceed.
Thank you, Member. Resolution made by the House of Assembly under Section 77(1) of the Customs Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter 169, and Section 3 of the Excise Tax Amendment Act 2020, was proposed and seconded in the House of Assembly on the 28th day of April 2026. Whereas a certificate of good standing that had not expired or been cancelled was produced to the Minister of Finance in relation to the importers. Be it resolved that under the powers contained in Section 77(1) of the Customs Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter 169, and Section 3 of the Excise Tax Amendment Act 2020, the House of Assembly exempts from customs duty and excise tax the goods imported into Anguilla specified in the schedule. The following conditions apply in respect of all goods exempted by virtue of this resolution. A, the goods shall not within 5 years of the date of importation be sold, exchanged, given away, or applied to any use other than the use specified in the schedule. B, on the expiry of 6 months from the date of importation and each successive 6-month period within the 5-year period after the date of importation, the importer shall certify to the Comptroller of Customs in a form acceptable to the Comptroller of Customs that he has complied with the conditions set out in paragraph A. C, upon demand made by a customs officer, the goods exempted under this resolution shall be produced or otherwise accounted for to the customs officer. D, in accordance with the Customs Administrative Cost Recovery Act, RSA 170, at the time of import, the importer shall pay the customs administrative charge at the rate specified in the schedule. 2, in accordance with Section 71 of the Customs Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter 169, the following apply in the event that a condition referred to in Section 1 of this resolution is contravened or not complied with. A, if any of the goods exempted under this resolution are sold, exchanged, given away, or applied to any use other than the use specified in the schedule within 5 years of the date of importation, the importer shall pay the customs duty and excise tax on the value of such goods at the rates specified in the integrated customs tariff at the date of importation. 2, the importer and any person knowingly concerned in such sale, exchange, gift, or unsanctioned use is guilty of an offense and may be arrested and is liable to a fine of $20,000 or 3 times the customs duty, excise tax relieved, whichever is the greater, or to imprisonment for a term of 2 years or to both, and the goods in respect of which the exemption was granted are liable to forfeiture. B, if the importer fails to certify that he has not sold, exchanged, given away, or applied the goods to any use other than the use specified in the schedule, 1, the importer shall produce or account for the goods exempted under this resolution to the Comptroller of Customs. 2, any goods not produced or accounted for will be deemed to have been sold, exchanged, given away, or applied to some use other than the use specified in the schedule and paragraph A1 applied. And 3, if any goods not produced or accounted for are subsequently found, they are liable to forfeiture. C, if the importer fails to produce or account for the goods exempted under this resolution, upon demand by a customs officer, 1, the importer and any person knowingly concerned in such failure are guilty of an offense and may be arrested and are liable to a fine of $20,000 or 3 times the value of the goods, whichever is the greater, or to imprisonment for a term of 2 years or to both. And 2, if any goods not produced or accounted for are subsequently found, they are liable to forfeiture. D, if the importer fails to pay the customs administrative fee at the rate specified in the schedule at the expiry of 30 days from the date of delivery of a demand for payment made by the Comptroller of Customs, or such longer period as may be designated by the Comptroller of Customs, the importer shall pay the customs duty and the excise tax on the value of such goods at the rates specified in the integrated customs tariff at the date of importation. 2, the importer and any person knowingly concerned in such failure are guilty of an offense and may be arrested and are liable to a fine of $20,000 or 3 times the value of the goods, whichever is the greater, or to imprisonment for a term of 2 years or to both. And 3, the goods exempted under this resolution are liable to forfeiture. And Madam Speaker, attached, motion number 4, schedule. The applicant is Donnelly Richardson. The authorized importer is International Motors. Purpose, farming refrigerator van to safely transport meat products. Goods to be used solely for farming purposes. The period during which the importation is allowed is from the 16th of April 2025 to the 16th of June 2026. The goods that may be imported is the 2026 Hyundai, and the charges, taxes payable. The customs administrative charge shall apply at 5% of the value of the goods in respect of which duty exemption is granted. All other applicable charges or taxes remain payable unless expressly waived by this resolution, and the estimated revenue loss is EC $29,018.85. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any contributions to the motion? Thank you, member. I recognize the Honorable Single Island White Electoral District Member Hodge.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Good morning to you. Good morning to the House. Good morning to those listening via radio, live stream. Good morning to the gallery. Madam Speaker, I rise in full support of this duty-free concession for Ms. Donnelly Richardson from the Dyes Farm over there on the Jeremiah Gomes Highway. Donnelly is a very hard working farmer, Madam Speaker. In fact, she has been in the business of farming for at least 40 years. And it's a tradition, it's an inheritance. Her mom also was a farmer. I was watching a video of her speaking about her farm, and you can see the passion that she brings to farming. And we are happy, Madam Speaker, to be here today to be able to grant this simple concession. It's a van. It's a refrigerated vehicle in which she uses to transport her meat products. And this is a step in the right direction, Madam Speaker, because this ensures that from the farm, from the slaughterhouse, her product, whether it's chicken, goat meat, lamb, that it is carefully transported, that the temperature at which it should remain is cared for. She ensures that from the slaughter table, it's refrigerated. And even the journey from her farm to the final consumer, whether it's the end user or whether it is a supermarket, Donnelly has made this step to ensure that the temperature is right. And that's a big deal, Madam Speaker. It's a big step in the right direction, and I want to congratulate her for moving and leading the charge as it relates to ensuring that the traceability as it relates to our food standards and food quality and food temperature is maintained throughout the food supply chain. So, Madam Speaker, I rise just to give my full support to her and to encourage her to continue along, because food security is a big deal for us in this administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. I recognize the Honorable Member for Road South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I too rise to give full support for this duty-free concession. I've known Donnelly for all my life, and I've known her and her family to be avid farmers. And as an avid farmer myself, I can say that this is a great step in the right direction. As I said, as a farmer, in terms of the production of my meats, I would have to pile a lot of ice into coolers, travel up to Otlin, Vanderpool's abattoir, or over to Quincy Gum's abattoir, coordinate with them to process my meats. And I can tell you, when you place those meats in that ice, you have a real task, because the meat is so warm that the ice melts very quickly. So the fact that Donnelly has made this tremendous investment, not only in her farm, but in food security for Anguilla, should be commended. And I would hope that others will follow suit, because it's a hard job, it's a tireless job, and believe it or not, it's a very expensive job. And I know a lot of people sometimes complain about the cost of local produced goods. And I can say this, the cost of local produced goods in the stores, when persons compare it to the imported goods, you shouldn't make that type of comparison. First of all, most, if not all, of the goods that are produced in Anguilla, the farm products I'm talking about, are organically grown. Whether it be pig products, which I don't indulge in as an Adventist, whether it be goat meat and lamb, whether it be chicken and poultry, or rabbits, Madam Speaker. Most of it, if not all of it, are organically grown. And even the vegetable farmers, Madam Speaker, organically grown. And hopefully we will ensure that we have a regime at some point where eradicating such as Roundup and other harmful pesticides that have proven to cause cancers, Madam Speaker, because we have a high proliferation of cancers here in Anguilla. But this is a great step, and I really appreciate what she's doing. And she's now the president of the Anguilla Farmers Association, so I'd also like to congratulate her on that role. So again, I just stand in my full support for this venture, and I'd like to see more of this coming forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Are there any other contributions to the motion on the floor? Motion 5. Does the mover wish to reply?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I thank the members for their contribution, and I have no other comments at this time.
Thank you. I therefore put the question that the motion 5 of 2025 becomes a resolution of this assembly. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. I invite the mover to proceed with motion 6, and you may bypass the recitals of the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion: Customs Duty and Tax Exemption. Motion 6 of 2026-2/13 HOA Regulations 2026. And Madam Speaker, the schedule attached to this motion, motion number 6, the importer is Michael Connor / Connie Fitness. The purpose, gym machinery and equipment. The period during which importation is allowed, November 20th, 2025 to November 19th, 2026. And the goods that may be imported are attached. The rate of customs administrative charge is a 5% administrative charge of the value of the goods in respect of which customs duty exemption is granted, and the duty loss is EC $5,648.96. And Madam Speaker, at the attached to the motion is a customs duty loss calculation and the breakdown of the description of goods and the revenue loss as previously indicated. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for motion 6 to be presented?
I rise the second also.
Excellent. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any debate in respect of motion 6? And just so I repeat it in case it went by really fast, it's in respect of an importer, Michael Connor, Kanai Fitness, and the purpose is gym machinery equipment. Does anyone have any contributions to the motion? I recognize the honorable member from Road South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I too rise in full support of this importation. I cannot say how proud I am of Michael Connor. He was the very first personal trainer at the Dungeon Gym and Fitness Center. And I dare say that I think that we need to move towards removing duties from gym equipment. And I say that with all due respect because over the last 30 years, there has only been one gym that has paid duty, and one gym that has been denied duty-free concessions, and that is the Dungeon Gym and Fitness Center. And every hotel carries a gym, and every hotel have received full duty-free concessions on their equipment, and every gym in Anguilla have received full duty-free concessions on the equipment, save for one. So, sorry? Yeah, I have. Yes. The member, asked if I did apply. Well, since it is my facility, yes, I did apply on 2 occasions, just before Neil's time and just after Neil's time. And on both occasions, I was denied.
Hello. Today,
Yes.
wait, no, don't go anywhere. Wait, hold on. Today, I will announce that I finally have my transcripts in real time. Okay, real time, and the members can do it too. So let's see what that exchange was just now that I just missed. Proceed. But I suspect that member Hart was interrupting you. I
Yeah,
heard
but
him
it's fine,
cross-talking.
It's fine. I'm
No, it's not fine.
He was not offensive in any way, Madam Speaker. He was not.
He was
offensive
telling
in-
you to apply?
No, he was asking if I applied, but
Okay.
I don't think he was.
Today is about Michael Connor.
Yes, so I don't
My
think-
instructor.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I'm not taking it away, but I'm saying that
Proceed.
with all due respect, the fact that for the past 30 years, only one facility in Anguilla have not received duty-free concessions, even though it has applied. So whether it's biased or not, I don't know. But I have spoken to the Honorable Premier, and she has guaranteed that that will change very quickly. So, but again, I rise in full support, as I have done so with every previous duty-free concession that has come to this House for this type of equipment, because I think that everybody, regardless of who you are, whether you're in the gallery, whether you serve on a festivals commission, or whether you're in this House, should be engaging in some sort of physical activity. We are a country that suffer from a number of NCDs, and the way we can stave off the challenges of MCDs is by proper diet and nutrition. And today we have 2 motions that have come to the House that can ensure us to move forward in terms of proper diet and nutrition, and that is Donnelly Richardson's refrigerated van and Canny Fitness duty-free concession. So you have no excuses. There are more than 10 gyms on Anguilla. Close your eyes and choose one. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. While in jest, we do appreciate the encouragement to the public. Are there any other contributions? I recognize the Honorable Member Webster. I didn't recognize it yet. I actually recognize the Honorable Single Island White Member Rogers, but he'll wait.
All right,
Proceed.
sure. Sorry. Madam Speaker, yes, I rise to support this motion as well. And as a former athlete and someone currently who's Minister for Health and for Sports especially, it is essential that we have gym equipment, but most importantly, have the persons that can best support and direct the athletes or even anyone who walks into a gym, probably regarded as an athlete, that it's utilized in the right manner. And Michael Connor brings years of experience and dedication to fitness. So again, I rise to support this in a big way, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Member, Single Island White Electoral District Member Rogers.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Pleasant good morning to you and good morning to all of those who are listening and viewing via the various media methods, and to all the members of this honorable House. Madam Speaker, I too rise in support of both motions in terms of Donna Lee and what she is doing, and to support her, to support the comments by the member for Road South in terms of the importance of the gym and eating non-processed food, so to speak. I'm sure that the honorable member for District 1, a physician in this House, would be able to substantiate that as well from his lengthy medical search. And also, Madam Speaker, just to say as the senior citizen in this honorable House, that I'll always wait and give the younger folks the opportunity to make their presentations on whatever topic is in this House. But Madam Speaker, again, and to congratulate you, you said that the recordings are done in real time. It is something that I would have advocated for when I was sitting on that side of the aisle several years ago. And I'm pleased to know that with the technology and Anguilla being the hub of .ai, that we are moving towards, the technology. But in my more than 2 decades here in this honorable House, I can't remember us denying physical equipment for any gym, really. So maybe while we don't have the technology, we didn't have the technology that we have now, I mean, we could always go back and look. So, but I can't remember, because I was Minister of Health and Sports and everything else, and I can't remember that, So, oh, it wasn't in the House? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My full support for both of the motions.
Thank you, Honorable Member Rogers. Would the mover wish to reply?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm grateful for the full support of the House in relation to both motions, and I'm especially pleased that the member for Road South has found favor with both of them, him being a farmer and the owner of a gym. Thank you, Madam Speaker. No further contributions.
Thank you. It has been moved, seconded, and debated in respect of motion 6 of 2026. I therefore put the question that motion 6 of 2026 be made a resolution of this honorable House. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried.
Motion 4 then of 2026.
Motion 4, in respect of the reply. Honorable Dr. Webster, do you wish for a quick break before you start, or do you wish to proceed? No. Proceed. Let's proceed.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Good morning to the members of this honorable House, the clerk and the staff, and to the persons in the gallery, those listening and watching on different platforms. I'd like to recognize Dr. Roger Duncan, my medical school classmate and friend of 40 years, who is here visiting with us today. Thank you. Madam Speaker, I stand today with a heavy heart and a sense of loss and a growing sense of frustration. I am overwhelmed with grief and a feeling of guilt. It is hard to process that 2 young men from Island Harbor, my constituency, my village, are dead. Their lives brutally ended by gun violence. I extend heartfelt condolences to their family and loved ones and to the community, which is shocked and mourning their loss. I pray that those responsible for this loss are quickly found and brought to justice. Madam Speaker, I feel guilty because we've been dealing with this spate of gun violence, this gun crime, for some time now. And while some progress has been made, it seems that I have not done enough. We have not done enough as a community, as a society, to rid this country of the growing reality that we cannot save our boys and our young men. I commend the Royal Anguilla Police Force, the Governor's Office, and the government for their efforts so far. But we as a society can do more. We must do more. And this must be a priority for everyone, just like it was for the COVID pandemic or for recovery from Hurricane Irma. Everyone focused and engaged and committed to finding and implementing solutions, not just thoughts and prayers and joint statements. We cannot afford to lose any more of our people to gun crime and violence. Madam Speaker, I am here today to respond to the Premier's opening remarks and the proposed legislative agenda for the second session of the 13th Anguilla House of Assembly, which was presented on the 14th of April, 2026. Madam Speaker, during the term of the Anguilla Progressive Movement 2020 to 2025, I opened up by summing up each year in one word: survival, recovery, revival, resilience. We navigated a course from large deficits, massive debt, an empty treasury, the COVID pandemic, and a closed country to significantly reduced debt, surpluses, large reserves, increased infrastructure, and a robust economy. We increased Anguilla's ability to withstand difficulties and recover quickly from shocks, thus reducing vulnerability. That is resilience. And so today I stand here to state that this coming year should be one of restoration. Anguilla needs restoration. The act of returning something to its original position or state. It involves rehabilitation, renovation, reconstruction, and renewal. Anguilla's economy needs restoration. Our social fabric needs rehabilitation. And our commitment to making a better Anguilla needs renewal. Madam Speaker, there was a blueprint laid out for this country, an Anguilla reimagined, where our people would be empowered. The economy would be strengthened through tourism, local entrepreneurship, and infrastructure development. And society would be more sustainable by investing in our youth and the elderly through education and innovation and compassionate policies. This AUF administration chose to pause, reassess, and reprioritize, thus shutting down infrastructure projects, reducing jobs, discontinuing electricity and food subsidies, and slowing the economy. And that is why there are billboards erected throughout the island giving them an F for their first year in office. Madam Speaker, it seems that whenever the Anguilla United Front is in office, bad things happen. 9/11 in 2001, the global financial crisis in 2008, the banking crisis in 2016, Hurricane Irma in 2017, Brexit in 2019, the COVID pandemic in 2020, and war in Iran in 2026. We can only pray that Anguilla survives this AUF administration. Madam Speaker, 1 year ago, in her opening address, the Premier said focus would be on the private sector and local business sector. The infamous AUF relief plan, instead of lowering the GST rate, dismantled the former Goods and Service Tax Act, which allowed businesses to claim back all the taxes they paid in GST. Now the new 9% goods tax must be paid at the port and can't be claimed back, and the 13% general services tax cannot be claimed back and is added to the cost of goods. So even when there's no tax on food items, Madam Speaker, the goods tax and the general services tax have to be added to the cost of food. thus increasing the cost of food and the cost of living. We remember well when the Premier, as leader of the opposition in this House, stated that the AUF had planned to implement GST at the point of sale, not at the port. What happened to that plan when she implemented the AUF goods tax on the 1st of August 2025? This shows how disingenuous the leader was when she made those statements. There was never a plan to implement GST at the point of sale, not in the Cartac report of 2016, not in the white paper signed by the former AUF Premier in 2020, not in the EXCO minutes of the 4th of June 2018, when the member was part of that administration and approved the GST implementation, not in the draft GST bill carrying the name of former Speaker Terry Harrigan, and not in the AUF Goods Tax Act passed in this House in July of 2025 and implemented on the 1st of August 2025. That was never the plan. But the Premier stood in this House as leader of the opposition and stated without blinking that that was the plan. Well, there were some episodes of rolling of the eyes, Madam Speaker. The Premier's plan was to increase employment. Then she stopped some and paused most of the previously budgeted projects, which employed or would have employed many Anguillians, who then had the ability to build new homes or restore their damaged homes or add on to their existing homes. The Premier's plan was to increase wages, yet she dismantled the Minimum Wage Committee, which was reviewing the minimum wages impact and considering a potential living wage. She scuttled the Private Sector Pensions Fund Committee, which was considering pensions for private sector workers, especially our hard-working hospitality workers, most of whom go home after 25 to 30 years with nothing except calloused hands and painful knees. Putting people first, a good T-shirt slogan, effective campaign rhetoric and electioneering, not put into practice. Typical AUF, Madam Speaker. And in her opening address 2 weeks ago, the Premier said, "There are moments when good governance requires not haste, but judgment." Madam Speaker, I postulate that sometimes good judgment requires that things must be done with haste. During COVID, we did not have time to pause or second guess. The lives and livelihoods of our people depended on rapid decision-making and swift action. When faced with situations, government must have the ability to quickly decide what will have the greatest impact for the people and act prudently and accordingly. The Premier said we have taken the time to understand the pressures on business. Maybe there's a problem of comprehension, because anyone would realize that if you take away the ability to claim back taxes paid, these costs must be passed on to the people, thus increasing the cost of items in the stores. And we pointed this out during the debate on the bill. The Minister of Economic Development, Mr. Kyle Hodge, single island-wide member, stated this prior to the bill coming to the House, that the businesses could distribute these costs throughout the prices of their goods. So he knew the bill would increase the cost of food and other items. Where is the relief of pressure on businesses? It is worrisome to hear that some businesses have closed or are closing because of increased pressures. Madam Speaker, the Premier said we took the time to listen to the concerns of families. Maybe they were listening with plugs in their ears, because families are complaining every day about the increased cost of groceries, the increased cost of electricity, the increased difficulty to make a living, the difficulty to get a job. And what has the AUF done about it? And before they blame these things on the war in Iran, this started in August of 2025, long before the war in Iran started. The Premier, in her opening address, was proud of the relief measures approved to ease the burden the war has imposed on the people of Anguilla. And as we pointed out in the debate on the bill, the relief is good, but it is not enough, and it's not for long enough. It may decrease the stress for a short time, Madam Speaker, but it does not relieve the concern. And we can do better. Anguilla is in a better financial position, and the Premier, as Minister of Finance, is not constrained as the APM was, since there's no requirement for the UK to approve the budget. Madam Speaker, this reminds me of a poem I heard many, many years ago, when a man was dating a young lady, and he said to her, "I love you, I love you, I love you so well. If I had a peanut, I'd give you the shell." Madam Speaker, that is where we are with this AUF administration. They have the wherewithal, but they don't want to pass it on to the people because, as they have stated on numerous occasions, they don't give handouts. Madam Speaker, it was pointed out that the .ai domain name registration revenue is exceeding the budgeted amount by $5 million per month. Again, thanks to the vision and action of the APM administration. Thus, $10 million over 3 months in relief is inadequate. And if you think about it, the relief package attempts to keep the people where they were as prices of food, electricity, and other services increase. But the people are already paying more than before August 2025, without any increases in salary to compensate for the increases. Madam Speaker, the Premier said we have been finding our footing. This was the experienced team. This was a team that called the APM administration a bunch of rookies, Madam Speaker. Compare the first year of the APM administration with the first year of the AUF administration. And add to that that Anguilla had a $97 million deficit, a $494 million debt, and only $500,000 in reserves. Less than 1 day of expenses, Madam Speaker. In 2025, the AUF met $44 million in the Treasury, $312 million in debt, and almost $300 million in reserves. They had a takeoff ramp that was pointed skyward, while the APM started in a deep hole, Madam Speaker. Finding their footing, it is no wonder that 14 months later, the AUF administration is hiring consultants to show them the way. And that is why this administration has been described as inept, stalled, and going backward. This administration even hired consultants to determine if they should demolish the Blowing Point Sports Complex, wasting over $1 million, most of which was a private donation by a visitor to Anguilla, depriving the youth of Blowing Point and thus the youth of Anguilla of a place to play sports and a community center to be nurtured, mentored, and to learn life-changing skills. This administration stopped the development of the Island Harbor basketball facility over a year ago and have made no effort to allow that facility to be built for the youth of Island Harbor and the youth of Anguilla, and yet lament when issues of gun crime and violence raise their ugly head, pausing for thoughts and prayers and no action. Madam Speaker, the undermining of the goods and service tax and implementation of 2 new taxes has been lauded as the greatest accomplishment by this administration, and one of only 3 pieces of legislation passed in this House in the past year. The Premier stated this was a campaign commitment, a promise made to the people of Anguilla. But what has been the impact? Have the people of Anguilla pocketed the almost $50 million projected loss in revenue? This is a resounding no, Madam Speaker. Can anyone say that they're better off since August 2025? Again, the answer is no. In fact, we are worse off. Because not only are we paying more in the supermarkets and hardware stores and restaurants and to Anglec and the telephone companies, but the 65% of the goods and service tax revenue, which was paid by tourists, visitors to Anguilla, this is now levied on the backs of residents in Anguilla. And the people of Anguilla are feeling it and complaining about it. Who is listening now? We can assure the people of Anguilla that the APM is listening and we are speaking on your behalf. And rather than listening to the people being directly affected The Anguilla United Front government wants to spend $16 million to buy a house in London. Misguided priorities, Madam Speaker. Now is the time to pause, to reassess, and change course. Madam Speaker, the Premier said, this is what people first government looks like. It reaches into homes, it reaches into businesses, it reaches into the daily life of the nation. And Madam Speaker, it takes away hope. It takes away dreams. It takes away independence. This AUF administration in 1 year has laid bare the aspirations of a proud and resilient people. It has squandered the sacrifices of a people dedicated to building a nation that can withstand the shocks and tests of time. The Premier said, when government removes unnecessary friction, it creates room for people to move, to build and grow. And I would like to add here that when government has a clear path, a blueprint, so to speak, using the words of the senior ministerial advisor, government cannot afford to pause. It cannot choose to reassess and reprioritize. Madam Speaker, there's lack of growth. There's loss of momentum and forward progress, reduced confidence and predictability, and economic stagnation. And so I come to the legislative agenda, Madam Speaker. The Premier presented the legislative agenda for the second year of the term of this administration. And I am hoping that there's a better record than the first year. At this time, I wish to thank the Attorney General and the staff in the Attorney General's chambers, especially the drafters, for their hard work, expertise, and dedication to getting the legislation done. They turned policies into legislation and are always ready to produce bills and regulations, even at night and on weekends when it is an emergency and necessary. The list is available, so I will only comment on some of the proposed legislation. The Banking Amendment Bill 2024. Given the history of the Banking Act of 2015, it is always interesting to know what is being proposed. And so we'll wait to see what comes to the House, Madam Speaker. Eastern Caribbean Asset Management Corporation Agreement Act. The comment attached to this proposed bill states that this is a minor amendment. But we have to be vigilant here because the ECAMC was set up to dispose of Anguillan assets used as collateral for non-performing loans. Again, we'll wait to see what comes to the House. Deposit Insurance Corporation Agreement Bill. This is good to have deposits in the bank protected. And we'll wait to hear what threshold, if any, will be proposed for deposits to be protected. The Recreation Watercrafts Bill. I assume that this is the jet ski bill, Madam Speaker, which is long overdue. This should be called the Hayden Hughes Bill because he worked hard on this bill, including setting aside select beaches for jet skis and ensuring that Anguillians could own these rental businesses, and only Anguillians. The National Sports Bill to include legislating boat racing as a national sport. I am in full agreement with this, Madam Speaker. And hopefully this gets employers to allow sailors paid time off for boat races, especially those races sanctioned by the Anguilla Boat Racing Committee. Also, sports facilities should be built and maintained through a National Sports Council, which will regulate and support sports at all levels and all ages for competition, team building, developing talent, and for recreation. But what has happened to cricket? The goal of the Anguilla Premier League was to expose and develop talent and use cricket as a catalyst for sports tourism. But members in this House, on the other side, claim that the APL was political. But what have they done, even with access to more resources? Where is the Players' Pavilion? We raised £150,000 in the United Kingdom with the help of Lord Zach Goldsmith to get this Players' Pavilion replaced. I do not see any work being done on that, Madam Speaker. We had the plans drawn and vetted by the Leeward Islands Cricket Association. Maybe it has not been progressed because it carries the name Lanville Harrigan Players Pavilion, and we know who he supports. What happened to the land set aside for the athletic track, which is to be donated through World Athletics, Madam Speaker? The granting of the track was based on the application, which had to ensure that the land was available and the preliminary works, such as drainage and sewage management, had to be budgeted and would be in place. Now, I have heard that there's a plan to procure an alternative site, another pause, reassess, and reprioritize moment. More delay translates to more uncertainty. The miscellaneous amendment bill to regulate offshore banking services. This is important and timely to safeguard the reputation of Anguilla. Cruising permit amendment bill. It states in the comments that this is to regulate and reduce noise on boats. This is very curious to me, Madam Speaker. We should be regulating the illegal entry of boats into Anguilla. Maybe that way we can curb some of the gun trafficking and human trafficking that occurs. The Tobacco Act, to ban tobacco use in most public places. I support this bill wholeheartedly, Madam Speaker, since I have seen what tobacco use can do to smokers and those exposed to secondhand smoke. And this is why the APM continued to levy high taxes on tobacco and alcohol to decrease access. And this is why the member for Road North was so concerned when the tax on alcohol was reduced on the 1st of August 2025. We have to be our brothers and sisters' keeper, Madam Speaker. The Premier also mentioned the Health Professions Bill, which is not on the list, but is essential to regulate the licensing, discipline, and continuing education of health professionals in Anguilla. A draft of this bill was available since 2012, Madam Speaker, and we were working on that. And I hope that, as the Premier said in her remarks on the 14th of April, that this one is coming. And this would ensure that health professionals remain current and competent, as is mandated in other countries. Madam Speaker, the member has stated previously that the AUF will continue the Senior Shield and Junior Shield programs, which provide free health care in the public healthcare system for Anguillians 70 years and older and children under 6 years old. And since they complained that these programs were not enshrined in legislation, I would have expected to see bills pertaining to these programs appear on the legislative agenda. Also, the extension to dialysis patients and to disabled persons. Legislation can be drafted to define the disabilities that would be covered. This is 21st century dignity, Madam Speaker. The previously listed National Health Insurance Amendment Act is also missing from this list. I think this is a vital piece of legislation which will literally save lives by ensuring that all Anguillians have access to health care. I hope that this was just an oversight, Madam Speaker. The Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. It states that this act is to amend licensing and fees. I thought we would finally have legislation mandating seat belts, child seats, driving under influence, etc., which Minister Hughes advocated for and worked on assiduously. Pensions Amendment Act, all good, but in the comments only applies to the Public Service Pension Fund. How about private sector pensions? This administration disbanded a committee which was doing good work to ensure that private sector workers can get pensions when they retire. Hospitality workers who make significant contributions to Anguilla's success are still waiting to be noticed, Madam Speaker. The National Wealth Fund. It is time enough to get this fund set up. This was an APM plan for the .ai domain name registration revenue. Given the increased revenue and the risk of external and internal shocks, it is essential to expedite the creation of this fund. It would also be good to develop a donations policy and further define the Capital Development Fund and a Capital Social Fund, Madam Speaker, thus making it easier for persons to donate and contribute to much-needed social projects. And this is the one we've been waiting for and have petitioned multiple attorney generals and acting attorney generals to get, Madam Speaker, the Procurement and Contract Administration Amendment Bill. The delay in getting these amendments to the House has led to critical delays in projects and programs. Given some of the practices in the statutory bodies, it was necessary to centralize procurement. We need to increase the thresholds and make the process more efficient, adding electronic submissions. In my opinion, ANGLEC should continue to be required to go through government procurement because ANGLEC is a national asset and of vital importance to this country. The provision of electricity is a national emergency, and government owns 79% of the shares. Therefore, government should have a say in the procurement practices of the company. The Bank Resolution Obligations Amendment Act 2026. It states that this is to address a minor required amendment in the schedule of the Act. I am wondering which item in the schedule. Maybe we will finally see what is in the banking resolution of April 2016, Madam Speaker. Because while the banking report on NBA and CCB are not made public because these reports belong to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the Banking Resolution Policies and Act and the Banking Obligations Act are specific to Anguilla and have negatively affected the people of Anguilla, but also damaged the reputation of Anguilla. The offshore depositors are still awaiting their day in court, and the Privy Council has assured them that they will be heard. And I'm scared to think that Anguilla's responsibility can potentially reach $1 billion. The Labor Relations Amendment Bill, which I have previously described as the Swiss cheese legislation, Madam Speaker, because it is filled with holes. We spent 5 years making amendments to make it workable. And it is good to see that the Premier and Minister of Labor is leading on fixing this act. Maybe there'll be a clause to introduce private sector pensions, Madam Speaker. The work permit training fee. This was to be used to train Anguillians for higher jobs so that all people can qualify for managerial and supervisory positions. Former Minister Kenneth Hodge spent a lot of time working hard to get these funds ring-fenced and not just part of the consolidated fund for the intended purpose of training and scholarships for our workers. The Social Security Act amendment. I don't know if the whole act is being amended or just clauses in the act, Madam Speaker. I do know that there has been work on the whole act since this was passed back in 1980, many, many years ago, many administrations ago, and many, many changes in society ago. This can have long-term implications for the people of Anguilla, so we'll wait to see what this entails. And I'm still wondering if the Premier will increase the starting age to receive Social Security payments from 65 years to 67 years or older, as recommended by the actuary. The APM administration rejected that recommendation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm concerned about what is not on the legislative agenda. I did point some of those out earlier. And I'd like to see the following considered. The Consumer Protection Act, including price control for essential goods. Two things can be done at the same time, Madam Speaker. Protecting our businesses and protecting consumers from bad actors who sell defective and expired goods. The consumer affairs officials need supportive laws which provide consequences for these deliberate violations. Rehabilitation of offenders, expunging of Records Act. Many of our young and not so young people cannot get jobs because they have a criminal record, mostly for nonviolent crimes and minor altercations. Madam Speaker, we must send the right message to our people that we care and are willing to give a second chance to those who make a mistake and pay their debt to society and have changed their behaviors. And again, the Labor Relations Act amendments should deal with layoffs and leave and how service charge is paid and the percentage which should go to employees. these are necessary amendments to support workers. The Fiscal Incentive Act, which would standardize concessions and government obligation to investors, developers, and businesses, including local businesses, Madam Speaker, and also would recognize what the obligations of developers and investors are in terms of social obligations and programs and how they would be implemented. We do know that all the MOUs signed by the APM administration had a social impact clause, which required a social obligation, Madam Speaker, whether it was in sports, culture, in education, or social programs. Madam Speaker, the bulk petroleum levy. The Premier did mention that this is coming, but this is not on the list, and not even on the revised list, unless it's under another name. This legislation was proposed to lower the annual fee for the bulk fuel providers. How helpful this would have been at this time when the cost of fuel has significantly increased. One of the providers had agreed to lower the fuel price for fisher folk. This could also be extended to farmers, Madam Speaker. I hope that this is still possible. Madam Speaker, I endorse the proposed emphasis on health and sports by this administration, because these are interconnected. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation. The increase in NCDs is killing our people and crippling our economy. We are paying more for health care on island and for medical treatment overseas. We are aware of the saying, prevention is better than cure. Therefore, persons need to be more active, as was stated in this House a bit earlier, and more involved in their own health. We need more health education, community nursing, screening, and early intervention. And at this time, I'd like to congratulate our athletes who participate and compete, representing Anguilla locally, regionally, and internationally, and proud to wear the 3 dolphins on their chests, Madam Speaker. And best wishes to those who will be representing Anguilla at the Commonwealth Games in Scotland. I wish them good health, Godspeed, and good luck. And we need to encourage the non-traditional sports like baseball, tennis, and swimming, and bring back softball and windball, cricket. These sports help to expose and develop talent, but they also bring communities together, Madam Speaker. In health, we need policies and legislation to facilitate investment in a new state-of-the-art hospital and specialty care services. And at this time, I'd like to thank the Senior Ministerial Assistant, Mr. Evan McNeil Rogers, one of my high school classmates. We go way back, for procuring a mammography machine for the Public Health Service through a generous donation from Gary and Connie Sharp. I wish to thank them as they have made several donations to Anguilla in the past and continue to be great friends and residents of Anguilla. In tourism, Madam Speaker, record numbers are coming through our modern, fit-for-purpose entry ports. The government needs to move forward with the runway expansion. I hope that government will resume negotiations with the landowners to move this project along. In education, enactment of the recommendations of the Education Task Force. Madam Speaker, I am excited that some of our teachers and administrators went to Naples, Florida to engage with educators there, thanks to Mr. Richard Schultz of Aurora Resort and the Richard M. Schultz Foundation. But we cannot ignore that all local experts who have lived experiences know the lay of the land and what is required to keep our students focused and learning, our teachers engaged and passionate about developing the minds of our young people and advancing our educational officials dedicated to modernizing and advancing our education system and utilizing resources effectively and appropriately. And Madam Speaker, the bane of my existence, gun crime and violence. I condemn acts of violence and criminal activity which steals the potential and the lives of our youth, especially young men. I wish to thank the Commissioner and the Royal Anguilla Police Force, the Governor's Office, the UK government for commitment to law enforcement. I thank the Community Services Department, especially Mrs. Hyacinth Bradley, for the programs designed to assist our youth. I wish to thank Ms. Monique Webster for her leadership and programs in the communities, especially in Island Harbor, to engage, educate, and empower our youth and give them a path to a brighter and better future. And I beg this administration, Madam Speaker, to continue to implement the recommendations of the Gun Crime and Violence Committee, which was ably led by the member for Road North, Mr. Merrick Richardson, including closed-circuit TV, mental health and psychosocial programs, community policing, and community centers. We must save lives. There is no higher calling, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank the staff in the Ministry of Finance and the dedicated public servants who have labored and performed amidst promises of better for almost 2 decades. I hope that the comprehensive salary review is completed and you will get much needed and much deserved salary increases commensurate with cost of living. And the Deputy Governor, Mr. Perrin Bradley, is in this honorable house, and I hope that he is heard, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, earlier this year, we celebrated the 100th birthday of the father of the nation, Mr. James Ronald Webster. Mr. Webster envisioned a new Anguilla with a bright future for its people, with paved roads, water and electricity services throughout the island, telephone and internet services ranked among the best in the Caribbean, new schools, upgraded medical and health services, a modern airport, a robust tourism industry geared toward the upper end of the market, and a public service that is well organized and well trained. And Madam Speaker, soon we will be celebrating our 59th Anguilla Day. Anguilla is getting older, but have we matured? Are we living in the Anguilla our forebears envisioned, or is our stewardship lacking as we have failed to take advantage of the opportunities before us? Is this the Anguilla they imagined, or the one that we can be proud of? Do we continue to disenfranchise our youth and disrespect our elders? Every day I wake up to a new day of promise and possibility. But day after day and week after week and month after month, and now it seems year after year, there is nothing from this AUF administration, no glimmer of hope, no beam of assuring light, but hope springs eternal. And as long as there's life, as long as the resilience and the enterprising spirit of the Anguillian is kindled, there is a chance. I pray that this is the year, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I endorse the legislative agenda as presented and request consideration of the additions I have recommended. May God bless you. May God continue to bless Anguilla. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I invite the mover to reply.
Madam Speaker, in my opening address delivered on the 14th of April 2026, I reflected on the current state of affairs, not only in Anguilla, but worldwide. Families feeling the pressure of rising prices, small businesses having to contend with higher operating costs, rising fuel prices, volatility in energy markets, higher freight, shipping costs, and geopolitical instability that has and will continue to impact Anguilla in some shape or form. And I stated, in times such as these, government cannot afford to be detached. It cannot afford to be performative, and it cannot afford to mistake activity for action. It must be serious, it must be steady, it must be compassionate, and it must be prepared to act in a way that is disciplined, thoughtful, and anchored always in the national interests. Having just listened to the leader of the opposition, I am even more convinced that the people of Anguilla made the right choice to elect this government on the 26th day of February 2025. The presentation, the misrepresentations made, and the vitriol spewed in his reply is exactly why he is sitting on that side of the House and we are on this side of the House. Permit me to address some of the statements made by the leader of the opposition. And Madam Speaker, you may be curious as to how I could be reading a response to the leader of the opposition's reply written before the sitting of this House. It is because since elections in 2025, the leader of the opposition has been like a stuck record, shocked and angry that the APM lost the last election and repeating lies, hoping the people will be fooled once again. Let's talk about the GST. The structure of the goods and services tax implemented by the Anguilla Progressive Movement in 2022 placed the burden too directly and too heavily on the final consumer, the average man and woman, in ways that affected the everyday experience of households and enterprises across this island. The leader of the opposition has been known to brag about the $300 million in reserves that they collected under his administration through the onerous GST structure that they implemented. But what the leader of the opposition continuously fails to recognize is that that $300 million was collected off of the backs of the Anguillan people. He made mention of businesses being able to claim back under the APM's GST structure, but there was no ability for the average Anguillan, the average consumer, to claim back. He speaks about the people complaining, but chose to ignore a petition under his leadership signed by thousands of residents begging the APM administration not to implement its GST. But those cries fell on deaf ears. And so while the Treasury was doing well, the people of Anguilla were hurting. And under this administration, that tax was restructured. The goods and services tax was transformed into a general services tax, applying to services while a separate goods tax was introduced at the border. In practical terms, GST was removed from goods entirely. Today, the people of Anguilla have increased purchasing power. They are shopping more, spending more, and better able to take care of their families. And this change in the goods and services tax structure was and has always been about putting people first. Let's talk about the .ai domain. And Madam Speaker, the .ai domain continues to outperform budgetary estimates. In fact, we were seeing this increase in revenue from the domain name while under the previous administration. And that is why Anguillians were asking the leader of the opposition and his APM administration, since you are seeing increased revenue from the domain name, and we, the people, are being overtaxed with the GST, why can't you adjust the GST and ease the burden off of Anguillians? In fact, the Anguilla United Front, while in opposition, presented a proposal to adjust the GST, but the APM administration refused to do so until December 2024, 2 months before the elections, when they removed GST from all food. A caring government, this government, did in fact adjust the GST on taking office, and the people of Anguilla are better off today. However, despite the revenues received from the domain name, we cannot rest on our laurels. We recognize that we need to set aside and grow the funds we are currently receiving for a rainy day. And we are in discussions regarding the establishment of a sovereign wealth fund, and we are looking at ways in which we can diversify our economy so that we can better weather the difficult times, thereby also providing some measure of relief to the people of Anguilla. And at ANGLEC, the government of Anguilla intervened to cushion the increase in electricity fuel surcharge, bearing the cost of fuel surcharge exceeding 45 cents per kilowatt hour for homes and businesses and 65 cents per kilowatt hour for hotels, villas, and guest houses. So we catered for everyone. And the leader of the opposition continues to speak about the $500 electricity credit. But what he fails to mention is that it was offered less than a handful of times during his term in office. Not every household received electricity credits, and there was no relief at all for businesses and the hospitality sector. Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition speaks about inheritance. The APM inherited a closed country as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And with the borders closed, our largest industry, the tourism sector, was also impacted. They inherited the cost of the banking resolution, which was implemented to protect depositors' accounts, stabilize the financial system and the economy, and create an indigenous bank for the people of Anguilla. And this past weekend, the National Commercial Bank of Anguilla celebrated its 10th anniversary. Through its diligence and with its board of directors over the years and staff, it has gained the confidence of the people of Anguilla and is indeed the largest bank on island. And it is proof positive that the decision to implement the banking resolution in 2016 was the right decision. But this administration also inherited from the APM. We inherited an overtaxed economy, struggling businesses, and increased cost of living as a result of external factors and decisions made by the previous APM administration. We inherited an island where many people were struggling to make ends meet. And we inherited a diaspora who felt disrespected and disregarded by the words and the actions of the APM administration. But we did not argue or lament about what we met. We got in and we got to work. And through our words and our deeds, we are doing what we were elected to do: put people first. Every policy, every decision that this administration has taken to date has been about doing what we can to ensure that our people are better off today than they were before. And the legislative agenda reflects our vision as to what we expect to accomplish during this session of the Anguilla House of Assembly. As was seen with the passage of the legislation and regulations regarding fuel relief in recent weeks, there may be occasions when we will come to the House to address matters that are not on this list, and that is to be expected. As geopolitical, regional, and local issues arise, this administration must be and will be responsive to the needs of the people. Madam Speaker, as we know, governments are continuous. And listening to the leader of the opposition, it is obvious that some of the pieces of legislation on this legislative agenda were enshrined from under the previous administration. So it is clear that the APM did not complete its own legislative agenda during its 5 years in office. And that is why it is comical that the leader of the opposition, the former premier, who sat in office for 5 years, could now stand and speak on legislation that he could have addressed, but failed to do so during his term, not only as leader of government business, but also as a minister of health. Madam Speaker, this administration is resolved to provide steady leadership, reform where there is weakness, and build where there is opportunity. And we are resolved to always ensure that the people of Anguilla remain at the center of the work of this government. And over the course of this year and the coming years, the people will see and feel the impact of this administration's work, from infrastructural projects, educational advancements, including scholarships, improved sports facilities, including the athletic track supported by the World Athletics Association. And Madam Speaker, as I close, I must address the issue of gun crime and violence and the recent senseless loss of life in Angola. Yesterday, the governor and I issued a joint press release condemning these acts of violence. The government also canceled our press conference so we could visit the Island Harbor community and speak with the residents and family members in that community. And Madam Speaker, our people are hurting. Our young men are hurting. Our families are hurting in Island Harbor and across the island. And if there is one thing that I agree with the leader of the opposition on, is that we must do more. Crime, gun crime, and violence is not political. It crosses political lines. And we must be committed to addressing the issues in Island Harbor, in every one of our constituencies across the island, and do more for our young people. Provide more opportunities. And this administration has made a commitment to provide additional scholarships, not just for the public servants, but for Anguillians as they qualify for those scholarships. And we are also implementing measures in which we can send people off for technical training, technical and vocational training, because we recognize that there is a shortage in Angola. And we recognize that our young people need opportunities, and we are committed to doing so during this term of office. And so, Madam Speaker, I am hoping and I would expect that, given the words of the leader of the opposition, given the fact that what happened yesterday occurred in his constituency, that the issue of gun crime and violence will be a collaborative effort across the House. All members will come together and address the issues that continue to plague our society and the issues that are affecting our young people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. In accordance with the standing orders, this is a motion that does not require a vote. So I thank both sides for your contributions and your remarks at the opening of the second session. May we proceed with the order paper?
Personal explanations, none. Other business, government business, none. Private members' bills, none. Private bills, none. Other orders of the day.
Members, are there any other orders of the day? Any other orders of the day? I'll only preface it by saying if you do have any orders, I would prefer if you refrain from speaking in any substance about the 50th anniversary, only because our actual celebrating of the event, you will have an opportunity to do so once a member for Road North gets our events going. Save and accept that. Are there any other orders? And if not, I will ask that a member moves for the adjournment of the sitting.
Madam Speaker, I move that this Honorable House be adjourned to the sanitary. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We have a mover. Do we have a seconder that the Honorable House stands adjourned sine die?
Second, Madam Speaker.
Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. This House stands adjourned sine die. I will, however, ask members to remain in chambers. I do want to have a brief word with members offline, off tape, and in privacy. So I'll ask the Sergeant, Mr. Sergeant Rowan, if you can clear the gallery, and we'll consider the House adjourned, but I do want to have 5 minutes with the members offline. Thank you for your attendance today, members.